Michael Douglas is an American actor who was born in September 1944. He is the son of the legendary Kirk Douglas. He's a two-time Oscar winner and has had an incredible successful career. His movies have been a big part of my life since the 80s. I've got fond memories of going to the cinema and thoroughly enjoying the Romancing the Stone and the Jewel of the Nile films, and then he kind of shifted more towards um, serious roles, I suppose you could say, more adult roles, and he tends to play generally very successful businessmen or cops, figures of authority, and he plays these characters very, very well, and he's got an incredible on-screen presence. He's also an incredibly successful producer. One of his Oscars has come from producing One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but also he is leaving behind him when he decides to step away from the movies. An incredible filmography full of a wide variety of roles. So join me now as I take a look at, in my opinion, are the top 10 Michael Douglas movies.
About this man, nobody's gonna miss him. But you bring this body back. They put it on me. They can put it on you. 50-50, Ben. Do you like those odds?
Now, the first film I want to talk about is a film that came out in 2014. It's called Beyond the Reach. It might be a film that many of you aren't particularly familiar with. And in this film, essentially, he plays the villain. And that's something a lot of people kind of forget about Michael Douglas. He actually plays very good villains, too. And he plays like a hunter who goes out with a young man. Someone is killed accidentally. And rather than report this, there is a dispute between the two of them. The young man wants to report it. Michael Douglas doesn't. So it basically turns into a hunt where Michael Douglas is hunting this young lad down in order to kill him to kind of cover his own tracks. It's pretty good. It's nicely paced. It's a really good thriller with a great central performance by Michael Douglas. And I suggest you check it out if you haven't seen it.
What happens if I shake my trigger finger and I feel an attack coming on right now? And you know what happens if that happens? You know what happened? It's the end of Mr. Lucky. That's the end of... Holy shit! Holy shit! Next time you'll not be so lucky.
Coming in at number 9 is The Jewel of the Nile, the sequel to the hugely successful Romancing the Stone. A lot of people think this is, not a very good sequel, but I actually disagree. I think it's on par with the first in many, many ways. It's a completely different setting. The action and the adventure is very, very good. The chemistry is fantastic still between Kathleen Turner and Michael Douglas. And then we've got the amazing Danny DeVito thrown into the mix, who is even better in this one, I think, than he was in the first one. It's a highly entertaining, fun action-adventure film, this. And it's a film I still enjoy thoroughly watching to this day.
I am not a destroyer of companies. I am a liberator of them.
The point is, ladies and gentlemen, that greed, for lack of a better word, is good.
So coming in at number 8 on the list is 1987's Wall Street, where Michael Douglas played the villainous Gordon Gekko. It's the role where he got, well, it's his second Oscar, really. As I mentioned, he got a producing Oscar for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And this is the film that gave us that iconic phrase, greed is good, that was quoted all over the place in the 80s. It captured that essence of the 80s, like the yuppie and the Wall Street powerful person with the big phones and the big limousines and all that kind of stuff. And you could argue it's not particularly aged well in a lot of ways, but it still has some iconic performances, chief of which is, of course, Michael Douglas's.
Do you have a cigarette?
I don't smoke.
Yes, you do.
I quit.
Congratulations.
Right, coming at number 7 on the list is the infamous Basic Instinct that was released in 1992 and directed by Paul Verhoeven. It was a star-making turn from Sharon Stone, turned her into a megastar, this film. But make no mistake, Michael Douglas absolutely plays his part here. You know, it was massively controversial when it was released, this film, for many, many reasons. And I think, you know, some of the scenes that I'm talking about. But underneath all that, I think when you kind of strip away the controversy and the you know, the iconic scenes here and there, what you've actually got here is a fascinating mystery with some memorable performances. And I don't sometimes think that Sharon Stone gets enough credit for her performance in this film. It's a very sinister, dark, and layered performance. And Michael Douglas is absolutely fantastic too. And the two of them have got brilliant chemistry. An iconic 90s film that, you know, I think will probably stand the test of time. I think the sequel harmed it a little bit because that's so poor, but the original is certainly one of those, you know, controversial films from the 90s that many people have fond memories of.
I just want to be a part of your life.
Oh, this is the way you do it, huh? Showing up at my appointment?
What am I supposed to do? You won't answer my calls. You changed your number. I mean, I'm not going to be ignored, Dan.
So coming next on the list is another film that features a buddy boiler. In actual fact, this is the film that coined the phrase buddy boiler because of it. It is Fatal Attraction, of course. The very influential, in a lot of ways, thriller. Obviously, where Michael Douglas has an affair with Glenn Close's character. Glenn Close turns out to be a little bit unstable, to say the least, and turns Michael Douglas's life upside down. As I say, it was very influential because a lot of films followed this that kind of had unstable people in it, you know, like Hand That Rocks the Cradle, things like that. They all kind of followed this. But this was the original, arguably still the best. I do believe they tried to bring this out as a TV show, I think, a couple of years ago, that obviously didn't do very well because nobody even mentions or talks about that so much. But this is a very well made film with an incredible climax that'll have you on the edge of your seat if you've never seen it. And obviously the performances and the chemistry between Douglas and Glenn Close is very, very good indeed. Right, coming in at number 5 on the list is The Game, an incredible thriller by David Fincher. Michael Douglas, who plays this super successful businessman, you know, he's got everything he could ever want, doesn't want for anything, he's a bit of an arse, and his brother Sean Penn gives him a birthday present for something that he can't buy, which is like, it's called The Game, basically. It's this thing that can change your life. However, when the game begins, things, you know, unravel completely out of control and turn Michael Douglas's character completely upside down. I mean, I think this is arguably one of his strongest performances. If you watch Michael Douglas's character in this film and the journey that he goes on, the character and how it evolves, I think it's a really, really top-notch performance. You know, it's classic David Fincher stuff. You know, I mean, the guy's fantastic at tension, and I just think the film is fabulous with an incredible climax to the film as well. So yeah, it is an absolute belter, this one.
You don't know all that has happened here.
He will pull the trigger, Abdullah.
The devil has come to Sabo.
Oh, you're right. The devil has come to Sabo. Look at me. I am the devil.
Now, coming next on the list at number 4 is The Ghost and the Darkness. It was directed by Stephen Hopkins and has Val Kilmer in the film as well. Now, what I love about this film is the fact that it's based on true events. You know, the fact that these two lions killed apparently over 100 people while they were building this railroad in Africa. It's a fascinating story, and I think they capture it really well in this film. It's actually quite a scary film. It's a brilliant creature feature with fantastic central performances by Val Kilmer and Michael Douglas. Michael Douglas plays this famous hunter that comes to help Val Kilmer hunt these lions down, and it's a very, very memorable performance by him in what I think is a very underrated film. If you've never seen The Ghost of the Darkness and you like, a really good creature feature that's based on true events, then honestly, guys, you'll be very, very impressed with this film. It's very good.
All right, you can have my briefcase. Here, you want a briefcase? Here's my briefcase. Here's the briefcase. Here. Hey, where you going, huh? Where you going? You forgot the briefcase. You forgot the briefcase.
Next on the list is Falling Down. The film is directed by Joel Schumacher, and it features Michael Douglas as a character who's simply known as Defense, who is an ordinary chap with a fairly ordinary job. He goes to this job regular. He's no problem. He's got a wife and a daughter, but when his life spirals out of control, he then has a breakdown, I think it's fair to say, and you see him have this breakdown in this film, and he kind of fights back against all the crap that we put up with every day, like extortionate prices in shops, the terrible food at fast food, so on and so forth. He kind of does all the things we wish we were brave enough to do, but in actual fact, he is actually a very dangerous man and a very villainous man, and it's a very layered and complex film and performance that it's also a really good social commentary film as well. It says a lot about society at the time and even today in many, many ways as well. So it's a really fantastic film, a great watch, and an incredible central performance by Douglas.
Okay, let's make some time. Oh, shit.
Coming in at number 2 is Romancing the Stone. This was the film that I first became aware of Michael Douglas. I went to the cinema to see this when it first came out. Absolutely loved it. I remember we went back a number of times to watch it. It was one of those films that was a really fun, feel-good movie that had a great cast. Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner, I think, were one of the all-time greats in regards to screen chemistry. I mean, it was just off the charts, their chemistry. Danny DeVito added the comedy to the film, and he did it so absolutely brilliantly. It's a great fun, action adventure film with a lot of romance thrown in for good measure as well, and it's a very, very memorable film from the 80s, a classic film from the 80s, and definitely a big part of my childhood growing up, so that's why I've put it so high on the list.
So where's your boss? 英語はわかんねえんだよ。日本語で話せ。
I only want to talk for 5 minutes.
For me, I'm putting Black Rain at number 1 on this list. I think this is not only Michael Douglas's most underrated film, I also think it's Ridley Scott's, who directed this film, what is arguably his most underrated film as well. This film took a long time to kind of get any respect. It kind of didn't do anything when it first came out. But it is just so brilliant, this film. It's a great cop thriller. You've got Andy Garcia in here as well. You've got Kate Capshaw, where Michael Douglas travels to Japan to track down this Yakuza member who's caused chaos in America, and he just won't back down. He is a very complex, police detective. Nick Conkin is called. He just won't stand for any crap at all, really. It's absolutely beautifully shot by Ridley Scott, and I can't emphasize that enough. It's stunningly shot, and I think it's got one of the best movie soundtracks of all time. I mean, the music in it is just incredible. It's a fabulous film. It is, for me, endlessly watchable, and it's just a great film. And I do really encourage you guys to check out Black Rain if you've never seen it. I absolutely do think it's one of the most underrated films, not only of their careers but of the 80s itself. So yeah, that's why I put it at number one. I think it's an outstanding movie. So thanks for joining me for this list, guys. Let me know in the comments what your favourite Michael Douglas films are, and I will of course see you back on the channel with plenty more content, reviews, so on and so forth very soon.